Guys, what have we had? We've had Donald Trump flying over, celebrity international super pedophile, allegedly, probably. Him over humiliating Keir Starmer, lies about free speech in Britain, going down the toilet, lies about refugees and asylum seekers having a higher propensity to commit sexual offences. Did I talk? I don't think I talked about that tonight, did I? Matt Goodwin put out a tweet the other day. It was unintentionally hilarious. He said 40%, according to his statistics, 40% of all sexual offences in London are committed by foreign nationals. That's what he said, 40%. And I went away, I did a little bit of digging, and I found out that in a fantastically cosmopolitan city like London, you can expect the rate of foreign-born people in London to sit at around 40%. So it's like unintentionally hilarious, because what he's trying to weave this narrative that, you know, foreigners, immigrants, whatever, are more likely to become sexual predators or rapists or whatever. That's what he's implicitly suggesting. But actually, we know from the stats that if 40% of London was born overseas and now live in London, and 40% of the sexual offences come from foreign-born nationals, all that we're saying is that foreign-born nationals are just as likely to commit those offences as good old Great British sexual predators. Guys. So that was fun. We've had, to date, peaceful protests in Epping. You know, we'll see how that turns out. The weather's cooled down a bit now, so maybe we've got that on our side. Also, you know, we should take solace and strength in the fact that GB News encountered absolutely zero fascists while they were there. So that sounds encouraging also. We've managed to put to bed the latest fantasy nightmare that Sharia law is taking over Britain, taking over British courts. So it is. I mean, I personally would have thought that Farage and co would have been perversely excited by that. I mean, they spend so much of their time shouting and screaming to anybody who will listen, anyone that will pitch up at their press conferences, which is basically 95% of the UK media. They tell anyone and everyone that Britain is lawless, that London is lawless. There's a crime epidemic. I mean, I would have thought Sharia or not, they would be somewhat relieved. They'd be like, oh my God, there's actually a court of some description that's going to look into some shit. You know, it's all about democracy, isn't it? When you think about it. You know, it's not about being a fascist and demanding everything that you want has to be the case, has to be the status quo. It's my way or nothing. It's not about that. It's, you know, would you accept 40% of what you want if it meant like 60% is not? So it's not a perfect solution, but you do get a court night. That was the other... Sorry, I know I keep talking about fantasy nightmares tonight. That was the other fantasy nightmare that made me smile this week, was that after these big press conferences, after these interviews to do with lawless Britain and the crime epidemic...
If people are scared to go out of the shops, scared to let their kids out.
Like, didn't we said on the podcast a couple of weeks ago when all of that stuff started, when it all properly kicked off, we said that it was going to be, in fact, even further back. Do you remember the tube graffiti content? Do you remember the tube graffiti stuff that I said? I was like, I can just see that this is going to be a sort of wider narrative about how Labour have lost control of the streets and it's lawless Britain. And I was fucking bang on again, wasn't I? Tell me I was wrong. And then didn't I say, like, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you know, we will probably find out in a week or two, or, you know, like 10 days time, somebody will pull some stats. I remember fucking saying this. Somebody will pull some stats and it will show that there is no crime epidemic. Just like there were no Brexit benefits, just like there was no such thing as debanking. The whole thing is always fucking bollocks. VAT on private schools is going to cause a big schools exodus. The state schools won't be able to cope. Middle-class aspiring parents won't be able to afford it. You're ruining their lives. It's a punishment on aspiration. All of these things are rubbish. And now this crime epidemic thing becomes the latest one, as I think I mentioned this earlier on the paper review, but just for the benefit of those of you who tune into the podcast, but perhaps do miss the paper reviews, Fraser Nelson of The Times published some crime figures yesterday off the back of Farage's latest crime epidemic Lawless Britain press conference. And he basically, uncharacteristically for the right-wing press, held Reform to account. He was like, it is self-evident here, guys, that crime is not exploding. It's not out of control. In fact, violent crime has gone down year on year, again and again, for about 15 years now. And it's like, I appreciate it. I appreciate seeing, like, it feels validating. I feel validated when I predict something or I can see that something is false and I say it on record, on the mic, on the podcast to you guys, and then it turns out that I was fucking bang on. Like, it's nice. It makes me feel good. But oh my God, I just wish that it would happen just fucking 2,000 more times. Like, how come? Why is this the anomaly? Like, why is it that every time he calls a big press conference about debanking, about the rich leaving, about lawless Britain, when he changes the subject from Brexit because he doesn't want to talk about Brexit, when he talks about trashing net zero or getting the oil out of the North Sea, all of these promises, commitments, or these fear-mongering stories, why, oh why, is it down to part-time satirist cretins with YouTube channels to hold it up and go like, look, he's lying again. He's lying. This latest campaign, this is also bullshit.
So we are in a real mess.
Just another